Hello and welcome to No Access Required. So, I'd like to tackle the thorny subject of DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusivity, or inclusion, and what it's meant for gaming. Well, what has it meant for gaming? Let's, for a second, ponder the last couple of years. Let's ponder the games. Let's ponder the social media interactions. DEI, on the face of it, was full of laudable goals. It had at its heart a very noble purpose. The clue is in the title: diversity, equality, and inclusion. Bring everybody in. Smash it. But it turned out not to be the pure and noble thing that we had all hoped it was going to be. Various groups were set up underneath the banner of DEI in order to champion it, in order to allow it to grow and flourish, a natural and organic pathway to harmony and understanding. But pretty soon it seemed as though DEI wasn't all it was intended to be. Whether it was always intended to be weaponized or whether it just ended up that way is still a matter for debate. But when you have a company like BlackRock behind an initiative, one has to ask a very salient question: who is this for? A program meant to inspire growth and understanding turned out, in actual fact, to divide. And soon enough it became apparent that, as with all these shady social experiments or social initiatives, the goal was always meant to cause controversy, unrest, and derision. And soon enough the posts began to trickle out that DEI was given favoured status, that people within the programs and the people that were being championed had protected characteristics. And if history has shown us anything, it shows us that if one group is elevated at the expense of another, it is doomed to failure. And so DEI behind the scenes grew in strength and influence, and it turned out during the post-mortem that its growth wasn't at all natural or organic. It was actually political activism that drove DEI, and gaming, frankly, wasn't ready for it. And so when it had DEI foisted upon it, it balked back. It resisted. People know when they're being forced to do something. And if that something doesn't feel quite natural to the individual, it's always going to meet with resistance. And as is always the case, you know something fishy is going on, because when that resistance spreads organically and naturally, as DEI should have in the first place, it grows like a snowball rolling downhill. And soon, the resistance to DEI became as strong as the DEI movement itself. And so here we sit, amongst the wreckage of DEI. And you might reasonably ask yourself, what has it achieved? Well, it's still causing problems. There are still many people under the cosh of DEI. There are still many people suffering on both sides of the divide. And where suffering is concerned, natural healthy growth cannot be achieved. Now, I'm an older chap, and I grew up in a world which was, frankly, vastly different to the one that I currently inhabit. It was filled with profanity, social carelessness, low-level constant violence, and low-level constant racism. Now, I've just made it sound terrible, but in actual fact, it wasn't. And why wasn't it terrible? Because there are good people everywhere who are willing to accommodate, to bend, and to understand. And so, for all the hurt that DEI has caused and is still causing, there is a silver lining. And that is our level of social understanding has changed. We are better off now than we once were. Back in the day, there were no committees, there were no forums, there were no social media influencers. There was no steering of the message. Things just happened. And they happened for better or worse, and you were stuck with it. But that had been the way of the world for millennia. And frankly, it was good enough for most people. And I remember my first experiences of meeting people who were not quite like myself, white and heterosexual. I say white, my parents were Hispanic, but to all intents and purposes, I look white, so that's the box I ticked. But even in school, and I went to an all-boys school, there were young lads there who were not quite, as I say, as I was. No, I was never a jock at school. No, I was a sensitive kid, very artistic, very creative. But I am one of 4 brothers, and we're all quite different. Some of us sporty, others like myself, not so much. And I remember meeting these lads who were not quite like myself and thinking they're all a bit girly. And you just poodle along. You get along with each other, you're friends, you're not friends, you have interests, you don't have interests, and you just crack on with life. And the pieces fall where they lie. School finishes, you all go your separate ways, and many years later, you meet those individuals who you were in school with as adults, and you realize very quickly that your friend who you thought was not quite like yourself is in actual fact very much not like yourself.
Hello, Mark.
John?
Oh, I'm surprised you recognise me.
Yeah, the long hair, earrings, and lipstick. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I wonder if from this point on you wouldn't call me John and you call me Mirabelle.
Okay, fine, not a problem. Mirabelle.
So many people aren't very understanding, you see.
No, it's fine. You've kept your beard? I know, I'm joking. But my point stands. You found common ground very quickly. And any normal, sane-thinking person just accepted it. And it's no different now. And that was the problem with DEI. It became a stick to whack everybody else over the head with. And I don't know about you, but it's hard to feel or be kind when you're being beaten. The failed experiment of DEI will leave us historically with at least a greater understanding of those individuals who are not quite like ourselves, and in that regard, we're all infinitely better off. For all its faults, DEI has given us all, socially, globally, an education. And if at any point somebody who is diverse but wants equality and to be included comes to me and says privately, I used to be called Bob, but now I'm called Mary. And if you wouldn't mind and you can remember, my pronouns are they and them. Then my response to that individual will be, okay. And I'll probably add, look, I'm not very good with the whole pronoun thing, so if I forget, do bear with me until I get it right. That would be pretty cool. Thanks. And through a mutual conversation and hopefully mutual understanding, we, in a very small, casual, and dare I say intimate fashion, come to an understanding. And that understanding between two humans is the real meaning of DEI. Where we allow diversity, we consider our equality, and we are all included. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe, and share. It really would help the channel. And until next time, bye-bye.